All right, welcome to the Perfect Your Purpose podcast, where my main goal is to connect with inspiring individuals across the country, allow them to share their journeys and stories and how they came to be where they are today and how they're discovering their unique purpose and living it out. I'm your host, Danica Tramburg, and today we have a TV personality, Samantha Bowers. She's the host and producer for Midday Madison. And I know she has a lot more to share and she's super interesting. So Sam, do you want to tell them a little bit more about you and where you're at now?
Yes, well, thank you so much for having me. Like you said, I host and produce Midday Madison in Madison, Wisconsin. So it is a lifestyle TV show on our ABC affiliate here at WKOW. But I grew up in the Kansas City area. So I'm not originally from Wisconsin. I moved up here about a year and a half ago, which is crazy to think that it's already been that long because I feel like Madison is like my second home. I mean, it is, but it doesn't feel like I've been here that long. So I grew up in Kansas City, went to school at Mizzou. I studied journalism and political science there. You and I kind of met through pageantry. We never competed together, but we knew of each other because we've both been involved in the pageant world. So that was definitely a big part of my younger years as well, was the Miss USA, Miss Universe system. So that definitely kind of shaped my career aspirations and everything like that. So I'm also a fitness trainer at camps here in Madison. So that is also one of my interests and something that I love to do in my spare time, but I'm excited to be here.
I love that. And so one thing I was wondering about, has journalism kind of always been your passion, or did it change? Like, was there a point where you're like, this is definitely what I want to pursue?
Yeah, so it's interesting because I've always loved, I have loved writing. I've loved storytelling via different kind of mediums, but growing up, I was very shy. So I grew up, I played sports pretty much all through like my younger years into high school. And so I was pretty shy. I thought at times I wanted to go into dietetics. That was kind of the track that I was headed into because I was really interested in nutrition, fitness, things like that. But it wasn't until I started competing in pageants that I became not as shy anymore. So that kind of brought me out of my shell. And that's when I started looking at broadcast journalism, because I did kind of realize I love telling people stories. I love connecting with people. I love sitting down and just getting to know someone, getting to know their story, and then finding a way that I can best tell that story. And that kind of goes into journalism. So, I mean, Mizzou was a great journalism school. I learned so much there about how to properly tell someone's story via, different kind of mediums. We have so many different platforms that you can tell a story on today. We have TV, social media, even, that nobody would have imagined years ago, but it has led me to where I'm at right now because I never would have, when I was younger, you probably wouldn't have gotten that I wanted to do TV. But now as I've grown and kind of experienced different things, that's kind of where my path has led me, and I wouldn't change it for sure.
Well, we're so happy you're in Wisconsin. So
I know, I know, I like it here. It's funny because I have told everyone, they're like, what's Madison like? And I feel like Madison is a really good kind of transition city for me because I went to Mizzou, I was in college. This was my first job out of college, my first move out of college. I picked up out of college my senior year and I moved here, didn't know anyone. And so Madison's a great city. It's kind of a combination of a college town, but also a bigger city. It feels kind of like Overland Park, like a suburb of Kansas City. So it's not too foreign to me as far as being like it's still in the Midwest. So I like it a lot. I'm happy to be here as well.
I love that. And then I also love following your fitness journey, and so you're at camps. So tell me how you got started there. I know that was definitely something different for you when you came to Madison, like you weren't doing it right away. So how did you get involved with camps?
Yeah, so that's actually a really interesting story because like you said, I was a trainer at Mizzou.
Okay.
So I did have experience doing personal training and group fitness at Mizzou, but then when I moved up here, I did know eventually I wanted to find a gym and I wanted to start training because the community that you find whenever you start working at a gym is just amazing. And I mean, I've met a lot of my best friends through camps, but right when I moved up here, I didn't dive right into it because I was like, I kind of want to get settled. I kind of want to get Midday Madison off its feet because it was a brand new show whenever I did move up here. So I was really swamped with that whenever I first started. But then I had an intern that was helping me with Midday Madison who worked out at camps. And she was like, you should have some of the trainers at camps come on the show and do a fitness segment. So I did. I had a couple of trainers come on, met them. And then my intern was like, oh, I work out there. You need to come take a class there with me. And so I was like, okay, I'll go take a class. I took a class, and it's funny, I actually asked their head trainer if they were hiring front desk. I was like, are you guys hiring front desk? I just wanted to be in a like fitness atmosphere. I love the atmosphere. I love the community, the friendships that you make when you're there. So I asked about front desk because what'd you say?
I said it's so high energy, and it's just
it is. It's energizing to be there. And so I didn't know they were hiring for trainers, because in my mind I was like, oh, camps probably isn't hiring for trainers. Like, I've never like heard of them hiring for trainers. They're probably not. And so I asked, I was like, are you hiring for front desk? And he was like, no, but we're actually hiring for trainers. Would you be interested in auditioning for that? And I was like, wait, yes, that's actually what I want, but I just didn't think to ask for it. So yes, so that happened. I auditioned, and then I got the job, started working there. We have our studio. We are reopening our studio actually now with COVID and everything. We have had to close down a couple times, but we started doing live classes online, which has been pretty interesting. Just to see all the different, not even just fitness studios, but different businesses throughout all of this, how they've had to turn and pivot and kind of innovate. And Camps Live, it was kind of a product of that, but it's become something that's so big. It's amazing. I mean, I'm able to lead a class to people who are all over the country, whereas that wouldn't have ever been something that would have happened if COVID and quarantine hadn't been a thing. So I think it's pretty cool, and it's a lot of fun. And it, like I said, I've met some of my best friends through camps. Keeps me accountable as well, you know, having to, not that I wouldn't work out, but you know, it's a lifestyle. It's part of my life. And I don't think of it as like, oh, I have to go lead this work. It's just so fun to me. I don't even think of it as like work or as like a workout that I have to do. It's just something that I love doing. So yeah, that's definitely, fitness has always been something that's kind of run like with me, like throughout my journey, like no matter where I'm at, that's something that I always kind of fall back on. It's always kind of like the constant in my life. And so I'm so happy to have found camps and have that community around me now up here too.
You're making me want to go to a class. So I might.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Girl, you got to come try out one of my classes. Yeah. Any of the camps classes there. Yeah. They're a lot of fun. It's high intensity interval training. So it's a good workout too.
I love that. It was so interesting to me. I think you were just saying how it kind of closed and you had to navigate the whole COVID situation. And also as a broadcast journalism, like what you're doing now, you interview people, you're face to face. So like, how did COVID and the pandemic change that for you?
Yeah. So, well, back in March, whenever everything was first shutting down, you know, Midday Madison, we would have people come into the studio every day. I would have up to 10 people coming in and out of the, like, that was like, we would have a bunch of people coming in and out of our studio and sitting on a couch right next to me, not even like a foot away. And so now, like, I watch segments back that we've done in the past and I'm like, oh my gosh, that person we were so close together. Like that would never happen now. But back in March, whenever everything kind of went down, we had people starting to cancel their interviews. They weren't wanting to come into the studio. And we were kind of like, okay, like, what are we going to do? And it got to a point whenever like the lockdown and everything happened, we took Midday Madison off the air from March to July. So it was part of the need for more news coverage. We have an 11 o'clock newscast and we needed a longer newscast to, you know, talk about what was happening with the pandemic, things like that. Midday Madison is obviously a lifestyle show. We talk about, you know, food, fashion, fitness, fun stuff, and businesses in the community, which is definitely, you know, a necessity, but not as at that time we needed more news coverage. So Midday Madison went off. I started doing things for the 11 o'clock news, and it was tough. I mean, from hosting and producing a full show to just, you know, doing a segment a day, it was less of a workload for me, but it let me kind of take a step back and like think about, okay, when Midday Madison does come back, what are my goals going to be? How am I going to use this time as like a growth a lot of people are doing things now. We do a lot of Zoom interviews, and then I do get to do some in-person things, but it's just, you know, 6 feet apart and outside. So even in Wisconsin in the winter, we do them outside so that we have adequate airflow, everything like that. We take all the safety precautions that we can whenever we do something in person, but we are lucky that we do have that option. You know, we can do it via Zoom or we can do it in person. We're just gonna have to take extra steps, which is kind of something that like hoops that everybody's learned to jump through during this time for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I just think it's so, like, I love how you speak. I think you're so passionate about what you do, and it makes me wonder, like, is it just something that you wake up and you like love doing every day? Like, your broadcast journalism or working out or those things, do you feel like there was an obstacle in your life you kind of had to overcome to get where you are, or something that was just like, this is really what I love doing, like this is my passion, I'm gonna follow it, I feel like I'm living my purpose? I don't know, can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's like multiple parts to that question that I kind of want to dive into. So I think that when it comes to your purpose, I think your purpose kind of, or the way that you view your purpose, I think it changes as you grow and change. So like if somebody were to ask me what my purpose is or what my like passion is a couple of years ago, it would have probably been a much different answer than what I'm about to say. But I think first of all, whenever you're thinking career-wise, I think that your main goal should be to be happy. It needs to be you waking up every day and doing something that you love. You shouldn't care if it's a Monday or a Saturday. You should just be happy with what you're doing and absolutely love every step of it. And that's easier said than done. I mean, it's something that some people never get. It's something that they don't ever find. And it's what makes you, it's what drives you. It's something that you can hold on to, something you wake up every day, something that gets you out of bed. And so when it comes to career, I will say, yes, I do love what I do every day, but that's not to say that there's not days where I'm like, oh, I really just feel like laying on the couch right now. Everybody has those days for sure. But I think that what you're passionate about, it needs to be something that makes you truly happy. And then when you look deeper at that, I think, especially when it comes to my job, I'm on TV. And I think a lot of people look at that and they're like, she's on TV. She just wants to be on TV. But when you take a step back, it's like, being on TV is not satisfying at all. Like that's not the satisfying part of my job. The satisfying part of my job is sitting down with people in this community, getting to know their stories, actually getting to talk to them, getting to share information about how people can come together to help this charity that is having an event or raising donations. I have that ability to do that through my show. And so being on TV is not the most rewarding part of that job. And so I think when you look deeper into like when you talk about purpose or like what you're passionate about, yes, I'm passionate about my job, but there's a deeper reason, why I do the show, why I do my job is deeper than that. And it's a bigger reason than that. And I can speak to the same about working out or about camps or being a personal trainer. It's, yes, I wake up and I love what I do every day. I love leading classes. I love the energy. I love the music. I love the lights. I love everything like that. But when you take a step back and you think about, I'm sure I can't even comprehend, or like no trainer can comprehend like the impact that you can have on someone's day. Somebody can be having the worst day ever and they can come into that room and it can just completely like turn their day around, or you can say something that will stick with them and it will have lifted their day or changed the way that they think about something, like body image, anything like that. Living a healthy lifestyle, encouraging that. I think that's the deeper why. So I think that when it comes to purpose, there's like multiple levels of it. And like I said, it'll change and grow as you change and grow as a person. But I think that when you think about doing something that makes you happy, think about why it truly makes you happy. What is that like inner why? And like, why are you truly doing that? And that'll help you realize that even on those days when you don't want to get out of bed, when you don't feel like doing it, you can kind of go back to that why and think, okay, this is why I started this and this is why I do this and this is why this makes me happy. And that's why I'm going to get out of bed and do it anyways, even though I don't feel like it right now.
Yeah.
It's my purpose and my passion. So
yeah, absolutely. That's such a good answer, I think. And, just so relatable for so many people, and you can really apply it to anything in life. And I couldn't agree more. People change all the time. I mean, you could change how you think in the next 3 months. Like, it could be as quick as that. And your purpose really, I think, changes with the season of life you're in. I can constantly think of times where I never thought I would compete in pageants, and it led me to meeting you, you know what I mean? So it's crazy to see where life takes you, and, just constantly evolving is so important, I think.
Definitely. Yeah, no, same. I think, the season of life that you're in you meet people for a reason, and like you have the gifts and the talents that you have for a reason, and you may not realize it at the moment, but it's all part of like your journey and your process and other people's too. Like the people that you come into contact with, you might not even realize that you were put in their life so that you could impact them in some way. But it all has to do with the seasons of your life for sure.
So I know you kind of like touched about this generally, but like right now, the season of life you're in, how do you feel like you're living out your purpose?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think that, like I said, it has to do with waking up every day and loving what I'm doing. But like I said, I'm 25 years old. So we talked about it earlier. I mean, your purpose changes and grows as you do. So I know that in a couple of years, I might have a completely different outlook on whatever my purpose, my passion is right now. But as long as I keep that constant of, if is what I'm doing making me happy? Is it impacting others in a way that is meaningful to me? And is that my why? Is that fueling my reason to get out of bed in the morning? I think as long as those three constants are there, no matter what I'm doing or what you're doing or what anybody's doing, as long as you kind of center yourself around those reasons behind what you're doing, then I think that that is your purpose. And like I said, it'll change and grow. But I think as long as you kind of keep that at the center, remember your why. I like to say that all the time. It's like, remember your why. Even like when you set a
I like
goal,
that.
like remember why you started it. Like why, what was the reason? Because that's ultimately, like when things get hard, when you come across those obstacles, when you come across a challenge, like what do you, like, are you just going to give up, or are you going to dig deep, kind of get that grit, I like to say, and
Yeah.
remember, like, this is why I started this. I'm not just going to give up because like a challenge came my way or an obstacle came my way or something like that.
Yeah, that's such good advice. And I think like anyone listening, like think about your why. Like, why are you doing what you're doing? And maybe you don't know what your why is. And then you sit back and reflect and figure out what that is and move forward with change in your life. So that's really interesting. And then my other question for you is just, do you have like a role model or someone you look up to that um, you kind of not not imitate, but resemble your life after, or maybe it's in your career, maybe it's not in your career, maybe it is just how you live your life when people aren't watching. Is there someone that you emulate or like to look
Yeah.
up to?
I have a lot of, I mean, career wise, I have a lot of women who are in this industry that I do look up to. I will say I follow a lot of girls on Instagram, and I watch their careers like unfold, and it's amazing to me to see like how much the women in like the broadcast industry have been able to accomplish, like especially recently. Like I see
Yeah.
girls that I went to school with who are out covering like coronavirus or protests or anything like that, and I just like see them and I'm like, I admire that. And I'll say anybody that puts in hard work and is passionate about what they're doing, I admire that. And that's something that obviously I try to emulate as well. If I had to name like a role model, I would say my mom. And I mean, that's such a like answer that like a lot of people give, but it's so true. I mean, my mom has had such an impact on me growing up. My mom and my dad, but if we're talking specifically about like a female role model, my mom. And I mean, my parents both, they've been great. They're the reason that I am where I'm at today and why I keep going and want to strive to go even further in like my career and anything like that, because they've always, I mean, from a young age, I can remember when I was playing sports, my dad always would tell me like, if you think you can or you think you can't, then you're right. And that's a quote that sticks in my mind. And it's something that I think about whenever I go out to set a new goal or work towards a new goal. It's like, it's all in your mindset. And that's something that my parents, both of them, have instilled in me from such a young age. So my mom, my dad, both of them, I would say role models that I will always look up to for sure.
That sounds awesome. It's never a wrong answer when you get to speak about your parents, and it also speaks volumes to them, the wonderful lady you are now, and the fact that you can have that relationship with them is really awesome. So I loved your advice you gave to us about your purpose. And the last thing I want to ask you is if you have any advice for anyone, maybe in the broadcast journalism world, or even just like pursuing a career that they're super into, but maybe scared to go any further. Maybe there's fear of failure. Maybe they don't think they're going to get a job after college. Do you have any advice for someone in the broadcast world or pursuing a certain career that they're scared about doing? Kind of like what you went through. What would you say to them?
Yeah. Oh, I have so much I would say to them, because I will say I mean, I didn't have a bad experience hunting for a job at all, but the job that I have right now was what I wanted. I got very lucky in the fact that I got the exact job that I was wanting out of college. I wanted to host a lifestyle show. But I mean, whenever I was applying for jobs, there are not very many like lifestyle positions open. So I'm going to kind of backtrack to whenever I was looking for an internship, because this is a good kind of example. my piece of advice is don't take no for an answer, because it's going to take a lot of no's to get your one yes. So just because a bunch, like you could get 70 something no's, but it just takes one yes to get you to where you want to be. So I knew junior year of college, I wanted to intern in New York. I wanted to do our New York City intern program. I kid you not, I applied for 74 internships in New York, got 73 no's and one yes. And so it takes a lot of perseverance. And that's my advice, is don't take no for an answer. Know what you bring to the table, and know that somebody's going to want to sit with you at that table. Know that you have something to offer. Someone's going to see that. And that's all it takes. It literally only takes one person. Same thing goes for when I was applying for a job. I mean, I applied for a ton of jobs and I got a ton of no's, but it just took that one person to believe in you, to believe in me, to get you to where you want to get your dream job, to get to that end goal that you have been working towards. It literally just takes one person. So I know it's easy to say that, and it's not as easy to hear it, but it's true in many, many aspects of life. Is don't take no for an answer. If you're passionate about something, you have to put in the work on the back end to get to that end goal. If you don't put in the work, you're like sitting back, you're like, I'm just going to chill because my yes is going to find me. If it's meant to be, it's meant to be. Yes, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be, but you have to put in the effort. You have to do your part to get to your meant to be, essentially. So if you're not willing to put in the work, then it's not going to happen. But if you work as hard as you can, you put yourself out there, you don't take no for an answer, you keep trying, eventually something will come through. And that's my advice for applying for jobs and finding one after college, because it's not easy, especially in like the broadcast industry. It's so tough. I mean, you asked about an obstacle or a challenge that I had overcome in the past, and I forgot I didn't even answer that, but I'll touch on it right now, because I think that the biggest obstacle or challenge that young women our age face, especially in like broadcast, pageants, this type of kind of industry, is comparison. And I think that also has, I mean, every woman faces that, especially with social media. And if you let that, it can destroy you. It can destroy your confidence. It can destroy your motivation. It can you can literally convince yourself from the inside out that you're not good enough, or that you're not going to get that job, or that you're not going to place in a pageant, or whatever it may be. And once you let those negative thoughts creep into your mind, those are toxic, and they manifest. It's like you can't even let that thought happen or slip into that trap. And again, easier said than done. And I even find myself doing it. I'll fall into the comparison trap still. But I will say I have gotten a lot better about it simply by being mindful of it. Like I'll catch myself on Instagram and comparing myself, like, oh my gosh, she's so fit, or like she's so pretty. Like, look what she's doing and I'm not doing that. And then I'm like, okay, wait, I am fine where I'm at myself. Like, this is my journey. This is me. This is what I look. I'm never going to be someone else. No. As hard as I try, I will never be anybody but myself. You will never be anybody but yourself. And so it's like, once you accept that and kind of get out of that trap and that cycle of comparing yourself, that's a huge challenge to overcome. Even, I mean, as you go on, I mean, that's something that's kind of ongoing that you kind of just have to keep in check. But I think that's definitely a challenge that young women our age face every day. And it's, social media makes it worse, obviously, but.
Totally. And, you know, it's amazing to see like the women out there though, that do empower others and inspire others and lift women up. But it's so true. Like I'm 24, and I mean, it waxes and wanes, I think. Like some days I'm like, yes, I can do this. Like I'm so confident. And other days I'm like, well, I failed at this once. Like, should I try it again? Like, I don't know. Like just that self-doubt creeps in so easily. And like you said, it's just an ongoing thing that you always kind of have to keep in check and regulate. But thanks to you, we have lots of good advice to leave with. And hopefully we help someone with this conversation today. I think
yes, absolutely. One person. That's all that it takes.
Exactly. That's all that matters. Do you want to let everyone know where they can find you on social media, follow you, and then they're totally going to want to go to a Camp's fitness class as well?
Yes, absolutely. I'm on Instagram at Samantha Bowers. It's just my name. Twitter at Samantha Bowers _ and Facebook is the same, but I'm most active on Instagram, definitely. And then, come check out a Camps class. Our studio is here in downtown Madison. And then if you're not in Madison, we have Camps Live as well. So that's on our online platform, and that's on our website. So definitely check it out. I'd love to have you in one of our classes.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.